Imagine with me for a moment that you are driving a train that has lost its brakes. You only have a lever that points towards two tracks. Only two tracks. On the first track, there are five people who you will crush to death if you went that track. And on the second track, there is one person who you will crush to death. What will be your decision? What would you do? I hope you didn't say that you will turn towards the one person track, because the idea behind that question is that not no life is less important than others. So you can't say one life is not as important as five lives if you really think about it. And because there are different ways to spice up that question in that sense. Now you might say, of course, why would you say one life is not as important as five lives? Okay, if that one person was the president of the United States and those five people were criminals, does it change your decision? Essentially, the point is that no one life is less valuable than another life. I'm talking of the life itself. But let's leave all that and focus on why I made this video. I made this video to talk about the concept of thought experiments. Thought experiments are means by which we can create a situation which will be difficult or costly or maybe even impossible to create in reality. But we can now create these situations in our minds, put different variables and factors in different places where we want them to be, and begin to figure out what the best course of action or the best results we think would be when we have put all these variables in different places. I hope that was not too much. That was quite a handful. But in a thought experiment, you put things where you want them to be and begin to test and experiment to see in a certain situation what could be the best course of action. When you're running thought experiments, you need to do these six things, or maybe five things. You need to do these things. But before I tell you the things you need to do, why is a thought experiment important? Just to give you more context. In some days back, I made a video and I titled it Fake It Till You Make It. There I said that a goal is not somewhere to get to, it's a place to come from. If you haven't watched that video, check out the link somewhere here. The idea behind that is that you should create or already live in the reality you want to be in before you actually see it in your reality. Let me say that again. You should act and behave as if you were already who you want to be. And that acting is not from a place of showing off a status, but it's from a place of developing your skills and becoming that person. If you want to know more about that, check the video. So, what does a thought experiment have to do with this? To create that version of the person you want to be, you need to make thought experiments. You need to think, okay, so if I was this person I want to be and I had all the money, or I had certain amount of money, I lived in this country, what would my life look like? What would be? It's actually quite important. It's different from daydreaming. It's not about just wishing, and no, it's actually conducting an experiment on your own life. I think that is so profound. So, what are the things you should do when you want to make a thought experiment? Number one, ask a question. How will I act if I had 1 million in my bank account? And I hope you're talking $1 million or euros and not some other currency, but that aside, how would I act if I had $1 million in my account? You ask a question. Do some background research. What does $1 million actually mean? The funny thing is, some people don't actually, I'm using actually a lot. Some people don't realize how much or how little $1 million is. They've just heard it all their lives. They've never really quantified what $1 million is, what it can get for them, what it takes to have $1 million minus the lottery. And I hope you're not following the lottery, but a lot of asides today. So ask the question, do your background research on that question, and then form a hypothesis or construct an hypothesis. And in this hypothesis, you're trying to say that, okay, if I had $1 million in my bank account, this is how my life would be. This is what I will be doing. etc. So you construct an hypothesis. Then the next thing is you run tests in your mind, the thought experiments, run them in your mind. So you can say, okay, if I had $1 million, this is what I will be doing. Why do I think this is what I'll be doing? Fine. If I had $1 million, I will probably have access to this network and that person, etc. I'll have access to these resources, and so I will think that instead of me doing XYZ, I will use the resources of the network I have to buy. I'll use the money I have to get the resources of this network, and I will be able to cut that out of my daily schedule, and then I can focus on this. And when I focus on this, I'm able to multiply my money. You see where I'm going? You can create different scenarios. You can figure out and experiment in your mind what the situation will be. Now, when you've run those thought experiments, and of course, remember that in some videos back as well, I spoke about inversion. So don't just look going forward, also look coming backwards. Don't just think if I had $1 million in my account, this is what I will do, right? You can also think if I had $1 million in my account, this is what I will not do to lose that $1 million. Do you know what I mean? Don't just think how will I keep or how will I multiply the $1 million. Think how will I not lose that $1 million. Think in different perspectives. And when you do that, you will be covering a broader range of perspectives. Okay, I'm just gonna keep on with this video. I feel like I've rambled a lot, but I'm trying to make a point. So after you have created your hypotheses and you have done the experiment in your mind, then you observe and analyze the results you get. Think about it practically and say, okay, this is what I figured and this will be my results. Now, analyze those results. And when you analyze those results, being as practical as you can be in your mind and as objective as you can be, that's the word I was looking for, being as objective as you can be, you then compare those results with your hypothesis and say, okay, look, after going through this and realizing that, okay, if I had $1 million in my account, maybe I'll have to pay taxes, maybe I'll have to contribute somewhere or whatever, maybe my lifestyle would shoot up and my lifestyle costs would increase. And think about all the things you can and then compare your results with your analysis. Compare your results with your analysis, your hypothesis, and then you figure out what the next step of action should be. So thought experiments, they're very useful, very helpful in creating the life you want to live, in faking it till you make it, and actually in figuring out what the best outcomes for a situation could be, which would have probably been more expensive to recreate in reality. I hope you got the point of this video. If you watched till this time in the video, thank you very much, and let me know, please, did this make sense? What do you think about what I have said? Today is day 45, I think, of the 100 days consistency challenge. I had a streak the first 40 days and I'm rebuilding my streak the last 5 days. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Thank you for watching again.